everyone, welcome to Inconvenient Truths. I'm your host, Jennifer Zeng. Today I will talk about how I look at the latest Omicron variant, the COVID-19 situation in China, and why the CCP has to impose a zero-tolerance policy in its pandemic control effort. I will also show you a short video of people fighting for food in China and discuss what we can learn about China and Chinese society from that video. So please make sure you stick around till the end. Over the past long Thanksgiving weekend, the most important news is, of course, the newly found highly contagious CCP virus variant, Omicron. I guess you've already read or heard a lot about it, so I won't talk about any news-related information about it here, as you can find that elsewhere. Here I only want to talk about some non-scientific, or you can also call it philosophical reflections on this matter. I wonder if you have ever wondered, why is this CCP virus thing here with us? And when will it go away, or at least be stabilized? Just about when many countries planned to open their economies or borders, this new variant suddenly appeared out of nowhere and forced many countries to impose a travel ban once again. Well, for me, I always believed that nothing happens in this world without a reason. So what is the reason for the CCP virus to appear in this world? We can easily find out the answer to this question if we reply to the following questions first. 1. Who funded the CCP to do gain-of-function research on bad coronavirus in Wuhan? Who helped the CCP to build a P4 lab in Wuhan? Why would these people fund and help the CCP? 2. Where did the virus come from? Where did the disease appear first? 3. Who covered up this outbreak in China at the early stage of the outbreak and made the world miss the best window to contain it? 4. Who allowed flights to other countries while locking down the entire city of Wuhan and even many provinces in China? 5. Who has benefited the most from the pandemic and who has suffered the worst? I don't think it is difficult at all to find out answers to the above questions. As a matter of fact, as early as March last year, I wrote a short article entitled Cure for the CCP Virus. My main point was the real cure for the CCP virus is to see through the CCP for what it is, stand up against it, and stop it from doing more evil to the world. What has the world done since then? In the beginning, there were still several countries and some states in the US talking about suing the CCP for the spread of the virus. But gradually, fewer and fewer people were talking about it anymore. On the contrary, more and more people, especially some politicians, thought that the CCP did a very good job on pandemic control because they didn't know the real situation in China and how much loss the Chinese people really suffered, how many have died, etc. Some even wanted to learn from the CCP. Also, people found that the world still very much relies on China in terms of the supply chain. And after the US conducted an official investigation into the origin of the CCP virus, the conclusion was we might never be able to find out the origin. And then this matter was pushed underneath the carpet. And then we had the latest Omicron variant, which should have been called the sheep variant if the WHO had not tried so hard to avoid upsetting the CCP and its General Secretary Xi Jinping. But you know what? Although the WHO did not name the new virus Xi variant, Chinese people soon found out that the Cantonese way of saying Omicron is 我灭共. The Mandarin Chinese is 我灭共. Both means I eliminate communism or I eliminate communists. And you can also translate it as I eliminate the CCP. Quite interesting, right? There is an old saying in China, 冥冥之中自有天意, which can be roughly translated as in the unseen world, heaven has a will or a decision or an arrangement about everything. So, because the WHO wants to protect Xi Jinping, now the entire world is talking about Omicron, which means I eliminate communism, I eliminate communists, or I eliminate the CCP in the Chinese language. So again, my message is this: whether or when can this pandemic get controlled or go away? It still depends on how the world looks at and deals with the CCP. While scientists can do their research and doctors do their jobs, we as ordinary human beings can do our part to trying to understand what heaven's will is and then follow it. If this affair appeared to give us a message about the CCP, but we failed to get that message, or even moved in the opposite direction, then I'm afraid that this thing will not go away yet. Even if we don't believe in heaven's will, we can still spread the truth, use human logic and reasoning to work out what is the biggest threat to us and do something about it. Well, that's all I can say about this matter for now. Next, let me give you a little bit of an update on the situation in China. In the past 3 months, new outbreaks appeared in many cities in China despite the CCP's desperate effort to try to zero out the virus. I will talk about why the CCP has to adopt this zero-out policy later after I share a video with you in a bit. And then there came this Omicron strain, which originated from South Africa, not China. This made the CCP feel that it had finally found a lifeline, and its mouthpieces rushed to amplify the bad news from outside China. On November 27th, after bad-mouthing the US a lot, Xinhua carefully reported that Inner Mongolia reported 3 positive cases, and Shanghai announced local cases, etc. The report said that the 3 new cases in Shanghai were all infected with the Delta strain with a high degree of sequence homology at the same transmission chain, and experts believe that the source of infection in the 3 confirmed local cases can be focused on the infection caused by exposure to an environment contaminated with imported virus from outside the country in other provinces or cities. So the CCP is trying to say that although the 3 cases are local ones, they still come from foreign countries, not China or Shanghai. But exactly when and where were these 3 patients infected and how? The report didn't bother to tell you. So how did the experts come to the conclusion that these cases were caused by exposure to an environment contaminated with imported virus from outside the country in other provinces or cities? On November 20th, the CCP held a press conference and announced that among the provinces affected by the current round of local outbreaks, 8 provinces have no new local cases for more than 14 consecutive days, and the national round of the pandemic as a whole has entered the closing stage. At the same time, it said that the recent global new confirmed cases have rebounded for 5 consecutive weeks, and this has put pressure on China's pandemic control efforts, etc. So the CCP is still trying to shift the blames to foreign countries. However, these are the cases announced by China's National Health Commission itself in the past week. So basically, these are their announced numbers. On November 26, 5 new cases with 30,826 close contacts under medical observation. I won't read out all the numbers here as you can read them on the screen while I talk. So these are the tuned down numbers released by the CCP itself. Even the tuned down numbers tell us that the pandemic has never been controlled in China as claimed by the CCP. It is indeed true that China, like all other countries, should try hard to prevent new viruses, especially the Omicron variant, from entering. However, Chinese people should guard against local transmission as well, especially when the quality of vaccines and the tests are not good. Also, while countries around the world should guard against the Omicron variant from South Africa, they should not overlook the possibility of other variants coming from China. The CCP keeps claiming that most of the new cases in China are the Delta variant, but a question mark has to be drawn as to whether there have appeared new variants of the virus in China, given that the outbreak has been difficult to control for months. We need also to ask whether the CCP has once again covered up the real situation, or whether the real situation is unknown either because the CCP is incapable of doing the research, or because the CCP just didn't bother to do any research. So in other words, countries really need to be alerted to the fact that the CCP has repeatedly deceived the world. We should not only continue to pursue the CCP's responsibility, but also should not fall for the same mistake again. Next, let's watch a short video that tells us so much. Well, what do you think? When I first found and posted this video on Twitter, I actually didn't know exactly when and where it was taken. When people asked me what is the context of this video, is there a food shortage? I replied, I don't think there is any particular food shortage right now. However, in CCP China, 40 million were starved to death. People have deep memory and fear of hunger and poverty. People no longer have shame. So when free food is offered, they fight like this. Several hours later, somebody told me the story behind this video is this. On November 22nd, that is 8 days ago, in Shijiazhuang City in Hebei province in China, several local caterers prepared a free lunch for sanitation workers and issued an announcement on TV. But before the workers had the chance to enjoy it, these people arrived first and started to fight like mad. So it turned out that I guessed right. I also sent another tweet saying, people from China won't ask what is the context of this video. It is almost everyday practice when anything free is offered, so they won't ask. Since I tweeted this video yesterday, it has so far got, let me share the screen to see how many yes, you can see from here that this video I shared yesterday already got over 120,000 views and more than 600 retweets and nearly 200 quote tweets. So people often say one picture is worth 1,000 words. I think that's why this video can tell us more about the real situation inside CCP's China than 1,000 long articles. So this is the reality in China. People can fight so shamelessly for something that doesn't belong to them. Dignity and honor have no positions at all in some people's minds. When the CCP tells the world as well as its own people that the right to live or the right to survive is the most important human right, people become as ugly, as terrible as what you just saw in the video. Some people also ask me, since the party controls everything, including what is in the history book and the education textbooks, do they tell kids about the Great Famine and what really caused it? And my answer is no. The kids are vaguely told that we experienced 3 years of natural disaster coupled with the Soviet Union's forcing us to pay back our debts. So people experienced a little bit of hardship. However, the party was great enough to lead the country to overcome all of that. So that's what kids in China get about the Great Famine. Now, let's quickly move to our last talking point of today. Why does the CCP have to adopt this zero tolerance policy? Recently, China's Center for Disease Control gave an analysis in its weekly report and said that if China adopts the strategy of coexistence with the virus, like Europe and the US, and gives up its zero tolerance policy, there would be more than 630,000 new cases per day, and China's healthcare system would not be able to cope with that. So China has to adopt the zero tolerance policy, etc. So you can see that this report was trying to defend the CCP's zero tolerance policy. The fact that the CDC had to come out to defend this policy itself indicates that this policy must have met with quite a lot of controversy within China. Also, why does the CCP think that its healthcare system cannot handle 630,000 new cases per day? According to public information, the US has 2.61 doctors for every 1,000 people. China has 1.98 doctors for every 1,000 people. So the difference is not that huge. Last July, the US had 200,000 new cases for a day at the peak of the pandemic, but its health system didn't collapse. China's population is 4 times that of the US. So in theory, if the US can handle 200,000 new cases, China should be able to handle 800,000 new cases, right? Why does the CCP think it cannot handle 630,000 new cases? Think about the video of people fighting for free noodles we just watched. So that is the reality of Chinese society now. One of the biggest problems of Chinese society after more than 72 years of the CCP's rule is the lack of trust and dignity. People don't trust the government. The government doesn't trust the public, and people don't trust one another. So if the CCP says we found one case today, the public will automatically think, oh, there must be 10 or even 100, 1,000 cases today. If the CCP says don't panic, we can handle it, everybody will become very alarmed. They may lose their mind and do all kinds of insane things like fighting for food, medical supplies, or anything that they believe will become hard to get as the pandemic has gone out of control, etc. You can hardly imagine how much the cost to govern will rise after the public lose their trust in the government and vice versa. So the only choice for the CCP now is to impose greater and greater pressure on everything in the hope that all the problems can be pushed down if it pushes hard enough. Will it succeed? You know better than me, right? Well, that's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. If you haven't, please subscribe to and share my channel. And also, please consider signing up for membership or making a donation through my website at jenniferzengblog.com so that I can ignore the censorship and suppression of YouTube and focus on my truth-telling efforts. So thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.